night at, guess what? Guess where? The Target. Has been looking for flip-flops, and we're buying a kid's gift tonight. So what do we get a 2-year-old? Duct tape crafts, blossom bouquet bed set, okay. Sewing kit. This is it. I think I found it. Can't go wrong with My Little Pony. Pink. What do you do with the yellow? Oh man, or one of these. Snapchat. I am taking a morning walk as usual. I love to start every day with a morning walk, kind of get centered, and then I don't stare at my screen. I used to wake up and just go right to my computer screen, which, you know, I was like, I need to get to work, I need to start this. And like that computer light, not so good. Yeah, that was my version of a computer screen in the corner. It's pretty sad. But now, you know what I do? I wake up, I do a walk with the dog. This is what having a dog has forced me to do. So in my neighborhood, there are just literally tons of these like lilac trees, these purple trees. I think they're lilac. Man, I'm terrible with plants and... Okay, let's switch gears and let's actually talk about software. Ooh, that's exciting. Because I've had questions about, Casey, how do you start a software company? So please note that I am not a coder, so I have guys that do the coding. I just am the one that comes up with, okay, what's a problem in the marketplace or any marketplace? So first off, see if there's a process that takes like an hour that software could do in like 10 minutes. And if you can kind of think about that and conceive that, then you're on the right track. Now, the second thing is it's time for a minimum viable product. You've probably heard about that, minimum viable product. I'll tell you what that is. So a downfall of people when they start to build software is they try to have so many features in it when it's ready to go live, and that's a mistake. So money loves speed, of course, but so does development. So, you know, when you're developing a product, get that minimum viable product out there as fast as you can, and then of course it's time to price your product. So a quick tip is price your product lower and then increase your product as you go when you add more. I know that seems obvious, but what I've seen is that people tend to not put their product out there because they're wondering what they should start the price at, and that stops them from doing anything. So price is based on value and, you know, the results that people get. So if you don't have any results yet for your product or your software, you have to do a beta first. Now, I've done two different types of software where we did a free product, right? A free, and then we had paid, and then we started where it was paid, but it was a really low price first. So that product that we priced at a low point initially, we initially had it at a one-time price, but eventually we increased it to where it was a yearly price at a much higher rate. Okay, let's take a step back. Now, how do you know if your idea is good enough for software? Because I'm sure you don't want to spend all kinds of money on building a software and then find out that no one wants it, right? When you're coming up with your software idea, it's probably based on a pain point that someone has expressed to you or that you have. So do a survey to your customers or friends. When I'm conceptualizing a product or a software, I always start with a Google Doc. Even if I don't give it to somebody else, I start with a Google Doc to start fleshing. Now, I made a ton of mistakes when I first started to get software made. I didn't have a flow concept in mind, so my software designers had to figure this out, and it took a lot longer. One thing I've gotten better at is understanding user interface, and what I do is I look at other software to really get an idea of flow, right? So I want you to start doing that yourself. If you're going to create software, start looking at other pieces of software so you can understand the flow process based around whatever your software is. You don't have to be a genius you don't have to be a coder, but you know, when you go to your developer, say, I like this flow of this site, this software. Get very detailed on the Google Doc. Overshare on the Google Doc. Say, I want this feature to do this, and this is the benefit of the feature. Because you also want your coders to understand why you're creating that feature and the benefit to the audience that's using it. If they don't understand that, they're not going to get the logic in the first place. Okay, now this leads me to the big question, where do you find a developer, right? Where do you get someone that you can trust that's going to develop your product for a reasonable price? So there's a platform out there called Upwork.com, and it's a place where you can find a ton of different developers that do a ton of different things like apps and things like that. Some developers are really good at creating iOS apps. Some are good with more browser-based software, SaaS, WordPress plugins. But essentially, Upwork has it all. Now what I'm going to do is tell you some things that you want to look for when trying to find a developer. Okay, number one is communication. Now I'm American and I speak English, so I want to have someone who can speak English and communicate that to me. I say that is because, on Upwork, there's a lot of people from all different parts of the world. You have, a lot of like Croatian coders, Indian coders, there are Filipino coders, there are tons of different coders. So you just want to make sure that they speak your language, okay? Bottom line, first and the most important thing. Okay, I came inside because the construction was so loud. So what you want to do next is you want to qualify these people by testing them. So first ask them questions so you can determine if they're good communicators. These questions can be things like, for instance, like, if you could build anything related to software, what would it be? Ask them questions, see how creative they are. Communication and creativity are really important when trying to find a good developer. But I'm also going to give you another piece of advice. Because the last thing you want a developer to say is, no, I can't do that. Although you want a developer to be realistic with you, but you're looking for someone who thinks outside the box. Okay, so with that in mind, you're at the hiring point. Maybe you're going to hire somebody. Well, instead of hiring them full-time or monthly, you're going to do a one-off project. Because right now, this is a probation period, right? You have to make sure that they're correct for you. So you hire them and you have a milestone. Have them work on the minimum viable product. You have maybe a few feature sets or the framework of the product created. That's what you have them work on. And you pay them a flat rate for it and tell them, what, I'm going to hire you for more of this, but I want to see how you do. So we're going to start with this. So determine the length of time. So let's say you say, okay, I'm going to hire you for 3 weeks. I'm going to give you $1,000 and you're going to build out the framework. And then you're going to say, this is a probation period. So I want to see how quickly you can build this out and how it looks. And then I'm going to hire you to continue on the process. Now you're also going to want to have them sign an NDA. An NDA keeps you protected so that they don't go and start using your software or build it out and give it to somebody else. Okay, after they build out that minimum viable product, if it's good and you like it, or at least that framework, hire them for longer and create this. Because you have to understand you're building a relationship, right? The concept is hire slow, fire fast. So check them out, test them first. If they're good, that's when you hire them for a while. Okay, now a minimum viable product can cost a gamut of things. Like my first minimum viable product to get out there cost me $35,000. It's going to be different for different software. Now for me, I asked for a lot of features. I didn't create that early minimum viable product. And I probably could have saved myself, maybe 10, 15 grand before finally putting my product out in the market. So I would put my product out in the market, it would make money, and then I would. Another thing that you could possibly do is try to sell your product to your audience before it's even out in the marketplace, right? For instance, if you had a prototype, if you created a prototype or you had the framework and you were showing them on a test server, hey, this is what it does, are you interested in this? You could sell it for like an early adopter price, right? Because it's brand spanking new. You get a low price if you're someone who comes in and supports it right now. Let's sum it up. Create a minimum viable product, price it low. That product should solve a problem. Hire a developer, but hire slow. Find a developer who has good communication skills. And if you can find a software company that has a project manager, sometimes that could work. That's what we. And of course, the more geeky the developer, the better, because that's inherently someone who's really smart and can do the job.